Kill Teamers, it's Nick from Venture Minis. Today we're deep diving into the Kasrkin kill team. They've been controversial for their lackluster competitive stats, but how do you make them work? I've got some insights for you. Follow along with me in the presentation below, and also skip to the sections that you find most useful by using the time codes below. Let's get into it. The main strength of the Kasrkin kill team is their reliable, consistent shooting dice. This is maybe their only strength that they really have, but they do that specific task very well, and as such they have a very straightforward strategy because they want to be doing that one thing. This results in a lot of their weaknesses, primarily because they're very much a glass cannon. They have very strong shooting, but the moment that they're not able to be shooting, say on the opponent's turn, they're essentially as vulnerable as it gets. They only have 7 wounds, they have a 4-up save, but they're not going to be saving against things that have AP1, AP2, or a bunch of attacks. Additionally, they have a very poor objective presence. This is because while they have 10 operatives, most of their operatives need to be protected and kept back so they can shoot well. This means that only a handful of operatives can be on the objective and are suited for that task. This means that at some point you might have operatives that you don't want on objectives going onto them, which means that you're going to be losing a lot of your strength. Lastly, their big weakness is that they are incapable of killing hordes. This is because most of their shooting mechanics rely on just a couple of attacks that you can make, and when you're trying to shoot at 14 operatives, you're not going to be able to get all of them using that core mechanic, which results in you needing to use 4-up shooting attacks to kill operatives, which is not consistent enough to be able to guarantee that you can deal with a horde team. This results in a very specific play style. You have one single task, to kill or to be killed. Their whole gimmick is revolving around killing enemy operatives. This means taking objectives and scoring by taking enemy models off of the board to be able to put your own models in those positions. You're taking this objective space not by putting models there to contest it, but by taking the enemies away. Additionally, you're going to be scoring a lot of your Tac Ops through Seek and Destroy, which is going to benefit you because a lot of the Seek and Destroy Tac Ops are for killing enemy operatives, which is something you're going to already be doing. You'll also be spending a lot of time focusing on denying enemy Tac Ops. Because you can't score primary objectives consistently, you need to make sure that you're maximizing how many objectives your opponent cannot score. This team is difficult. It's not exceptionally good, but it's a lot of fun, and it's really good against elite teams. While you might struggle against hordes, this team is really amazing at taking care of elites, and as such, it is a counter pick to elite teams. If you're going to a tournament where you know there's a lot of people playing really strong 6-model teams, the Kasrkin kill team is going to do you very well. Meanwhile, if you're fighting breachers and vet guard, you're not going to be able to do sort of damage that you need to be able to keep the enemy off the objectives, and additionally, you don't have the melee presence or health to be able to actually go up and stand on those objectives where the enemy has way more models than you. So to do all this, what operatives do you take? Thankfully, the Kasrkin kill team is pretty straightforward. Your sergeant is going to be going with the plasma pistol and chainsword. Your medic is going to be coming out of the field along with the demo. You're going to have 3 gunners, which is going to be your plasma, melta, and grenade launcher gunners. You're going to be bringing a recon trooper more than likely, as well as a sharpshooter, an extra trooper, and a vox trooper. As for the sergeant, the reason we go with the plasma pistol and chainsword is because it is just good. Unlike the vet guard kill team where you had an option of choosing different weapons, for this you either get the power sword and a bad gun, or you get the plasma pistol and a chainsword. The chainsword in this team is actually pretty decent, so you're not sacrificing that much melee potential, but really the whole point of the sergeant here is getting that 3+ plasma gun. Be careful though, he does have some utility. He's giving you 2 elite points each strategy phase at the very beginning. This means 8 elite points throughout the whole game, making a total of 18 elite points that you can potentially have throughout the game. 2 elite points can be a lot, but again, he does have a 3+ plasma pistol. Do not be afraid to use this operative to ensure that you can win the game and score objectives. The combat medic here is a traditional medic. Unlike most medics, he does have an option to make sure he doesn't lose APL. This comes in the form of the adrenaline shot, which is a 1 EP equipment piece. The combat medic's main benefit is keeping gunners alive. By using the adrenaline shot, he is able to ensure that he doesn't lose APL in subsequent turns for doing the medic ability. This means he can be very maneuverable around the board and get to the operatives that he needs to be healing or medicing throughout the game. And it also means that he can go up and contest objectives as well. While the medic is important for keeping your gunners alive, understand that Often you should be able to put your gunners in a position where they don't necessarily need to be medicked, and so don't be afraid to use the combat medic for other tasks. We don't really have the operatives to be sitting back and doing nothing but shooting the whole game. As for the gunners, we get 3 options, including the sharpshooter, who we'll get to in a second. The sharpshooter does take up one of our 4 gunner options, and so we really only have 3 to work with because the sharpshooter is so good. We take the Melta and the plasma gun because they're both AP2 and exceptional guns, as is with every other kill team. However, our 3rd option is a bit more interesting. We can take the grenade launcher or the hotshot volley gun. I did some math on both of these, and the math hammer sort of works out that really the grenade launcher is going to be the better option. It's both more versatile, and even the AP1 option does more damage on average than the volley gun. The volley gun is better against elites if you use elite points, but it's really marginal and it requires you to use elite points. However, we don't have enough elite points to be able to use elite points on the 3rd gunner slot. So whether you're using the grenade launcher or the hotshot volley gun, you're probably not going to be using elite points for either of these guns because there's better guns to be using those elite points on. As such, the grenade launcher is the choice I go with. The 4th gunner option is going to be your sharpshooter. The sharpshooter is an exceptional sniper. Like the Vet Guard sniper, it is 4 attacks, 2 up, 3/3 and mortal wounds 3. It has silent as well as heavy, rather than the Vet Guard thing, and so you're able to dash after you shoot. However, it also has a sharp shot additional profile, which just makes it a 3-up bolter shot. Most of the time, you're probably going to be dashing your guy up onto a vantage point, making sure that he sits there the whole game in cover. He'll just be doing good free damage most of the game. However, towards turning point forward, I've had a couple of games where the sniper was one of the last few operatives I had left, and was able to win the game by moving him and using that non-silent profile. This team also gets a basic trooper to use. Unlike most teams, this basic trooper does have a special rule. This allows the trooper to use a free elite point on each shooting attack. Note that this does work on blast attacks, so often you'll be giving your free trooper the frag grenade because each time it blasts onto a different operative, that is a separate shooting attack for the purposes of this. If you blast 4 guys, each of those attacks gets 1 elite point. That being said, the crack grenade is amazing, and against elites, it's probably going to be better to give him the crack grenade. Your basic trooper is probably going to be mostly spending its time to get onto objectives and score points because it is one of the least valuable operatives on the team. The Vox Trooper is the sleepiest operative on the kill team. Using his Battlecom's 1 AP action, he can give a different Kasrkin operative, any of them anywhere on the kill team, 1 APL. You can do this twice. Considering this operative has 2 APL, you're going to be giving out that APL twice. This means your Vox Trooper is going to sit quietly behind heavy cover the entire game, sleeping and taking a nap and giving out APL to everyone on your team. That being said, by turning point 4, you might need to move him out of his little sleepy hole and put him on an objective. Don't take this for granted and make sure that you are using him if you need to. He does have a las gun and he does have a normal movement. Most of the time, though, your Vox Trooper is going to be giving out that APL to your Sergeant, your Gunners, or your Demo Trooper. As for the Demo Trooper with the Melta Mine, this one is a tricky pick. I have seen people switch him out for a Trooper, but I'm going to go into why I don't. The Demo Trooper is your expendable objective scorer. In the first turning point with 3 APL, given by the Comms Trooper, you can move, dash, and plant your thing onto an objective, and sit there, and hopefully be able to score that objective. Alternatively, you can move, use 1 AP to score an objective, and plant the mine. Note that blast padding is completely useless. Average math shows that the Melta Mine will blow you up every single time regardless of blast padding. This will always be a trade, but it is beneficial against elite teams, and it will scare off a lot of horde teams as well. That being said, you do not have to do this every single time, and even if you find the Melta Mine to not be something that you need in the situation, the mere threat of putting it down often scares a lot of players, and the Hotshot las pistol is essentially just the las gun that the basic trooper has with a 6-inch range. And with this operative going on objectives all the time, that 6-inch range is probably not going to matter too much. Even though this operative is situational and the Melta Mine is not the most amazing thing in the world, it is still a nice situational operative to have on the team, and I recommend it over the trooper. The last operative on the team is the Recon Trooper. With the new Crit Ops cards, this Recon Trooper is guaranteeing that you can get 2 scouting options off, and with the new scouting options being amazing, the Sharpshooter can climb up onto a vantage point with the flying dash, and then also you can stick a fortifying barricade on top of that vantage point, which allows you to have a silent, in-cover operative overlooking hopefully a good portion of the map. However, without the crit ops cards and without those new scouting options, the Recon Trooper was a bit more up in the air. So if you're playing the traditional competitive option of the game without these new scouting options, it might be worth going for a regular trooper. The Warden's Auspex is really just not that good. It's 1 AP for a buff that's really not going to benefit you too much. While it looks like it combos with a lot of your other Tac Ops and strategic plays, those are the ones you probably won't be using that much. The Recon Trooper or the Classic Trooper, whichever one you go for, is going to be going towards objectives, and so that APL is better used to secure objectives. The only operative that I don't use ever in this kill team is the Flamer, because Flamers are bad in kill team, except if you are the Operatives, and that's unfortunate. There is just one exception to the Flamer, and that is in cases when you're fighting the Gellerpox infected, you will need to use the Flamer to be able to deal with the smaller weenies that actually do have about 2 to 4 health. In this instance, we use the Flamer rather than the Sniper because the Plasma and Melta-Guns will already be doing the damage that you need to do to be able to deal with the 4 Hulks. To make the Kasrkin be able to have any chance against the Gellerpox, we need to be able to deal with the Glitchlings and the other equipment smaller enemies, of which have enough runes to make the Flamer effective, especially on Into the Dark. Let's get into elite points. These are the core mechanic of this team and is the one thing that you need to understand to play them. Just to go over how these work, you're going to get 14 to 16 in a game. You start with 10 at the start of the game, and then at the start of each turning point in the strategy phase, your sergeant gives you 2 more. If the sergeant is dead, you won't get those 2 more, and so that's why it's 14 to 16. When you make a shooting attack, when you do the retaining dice, you're able to switch your dice, just one single die, to a different number. It only goes up, so you can't switch it down or anything like that. And that number depends on the elite points that you're spending. Say you've just rolled your plasma attack and you rolled a 4, a 5, and a 4, as well as a 1. You went overcharge, you don't want that 1. So you're going to use your elite points to upgrade one of your dice. So say you want to go up to a 4, you're starting with 1, going up to 2, 3, 4. So that means you're spending 3 elite points, because you're starting at 1 and you're switching the die up 1, 2, 3 numbers. Say you rolled all 4s and you want to switch one of your dice up to a 6, that's going to be 2 elite points, because you're going from a 4 to a 5 and then to a 6. With this in mind, you're going to be spending an average of 3 to 5 shooting attacks. This gives you enough elite points to adjust a shot on your plasma pistol, your plasma gun, your Melta, and your sniper. This means you won't have elite points to use on any of your other guns, so don't be tempted to unless you really know that you need to. Additionally, it's really beneficial to use these to get crits. There's no reason to really be changing a sniper from a 1 to a 2. You're probably going to be wanting to move that to a 6 to get that mortal wounds 3. With only 3 to 5 of these that are going to be going off in a game, that means that you really need to make sure that they're going on operatives that you need to get killed. This is why they're so good against elite teams. If you can one-shot 3 out of the 6 operatives, you're going to be in an amazing position where you can actually rely on those 4-up attacks that you have otherwise. However, versus, say, Vetguard, who has 14 operatives, only 3 to 4 operatives killed is not going to be a lot. Alright, looking at Tac Ops here, we're going to be looking at the Critical Operations Tac Ops. This means we'll also be working with the assumption that it's a pick 3 system. So, using pick 3, you only get 1 faction Tac Op. Vital Objectives, Stand Fast, and Secure Zone are the faction Tac Ops for the Kasrkin. Secure Zone is really awful because it requires you to move your operatives into positions that they probably don't want to be in, whereas Vital Objective essentially does the exact opposite. Vital Objective is great. You can really set this up using some of your tactical ploys. It requires you to select an objective marker that you do not control. Note that control in this instance means that you have more APL than the opponent within 2 inches of that marker. It does not mean that you haven't secured it, that you haven't done any of the objectives on it. It just means at the end of the target reveal step that you have no operatives controlling that objective. Because strategic ploys happen before then, you can use reposition to move your operatives off of an objective with 1 CP to essentially have it become the vital objective for you then to just move your operatives back onto that objective. It is the freest 2 VP in the entire world. Stand Fast is good, probably not that great for Kasrkin because you're trying to shoot a lot in the first few turning points. So Vital Objective is the one I take every single time. As for the other Tac Ops, you're going to be going with the Seek and Destroy archetype because, as I said before, we're shooting a lot and we want to be shooting, and so Seek and Destroy is the one that promotes us to do that. Eliminate Guards, Headhunter, and Executioner are the ones I look at. Route and Rob and Ransack are both very melee-heavy Tac Ops. Remember to read a route carefully. You need that friendly operative to be within 6 inches of your opponent's thing, not the other way around. At a first glance, it looks great. It is not. It is only good if you're getting all the way up in there, and the Kasrkin don't want to be touching the opponent's drop zone probably ever. Headhunter is to take care of the enemy leader against elite teams. It's going to be great because you're probably going to be shooting that leader anyway, since that leader is probably very strong and needs to be utilized. Executioner and Eliminate Guard's a bit tricky. I think they're both very good. The main differences here is that Executioner locks you to one single operative to be the Executioner, whereas Eliminate Guards is more flexible with who can be doing the shooting. I take this on a case-by-case basis. If I can't be getting turn 1 shots right off the bat that I can guarantee that I can get, then Eliminate Guards is probably what I'm going to be going for. However, Assassinate Target is an interesting third option as well. I don't think it's very good against any teams that have more than 6 operatives, but against an elite team, it requires the elite team to remain cautious. So that means one of the opponent's 6 intercessors, legionnaires, is worth 2 victory points the entire game. And with 6 operatives, each of those have to be doing things, and so you can guarantee that it's going to alter the opponent's playstyle or net you 2 victory points. So usually I'm going to be going for Vital Objective as well as Headhunter, and then I pick Executioner, Eliminate Guards, or Assassinate Target depending on the opponent. The key factors being for Assassinate Target, is it an elite team? Executioner, can I guarantee that I can get the opponent on the first turning point? And if I can't kill it on the first turning point, and they're not an elite team, then I'm probably going for Eliminate Guards. In terms of equipment, I'm going to be going for a crack grenade, a frag grenade, an adrenaline shot for the medic, probably putting a long range scope on my sniper for sure, and then the last 2 EPs sort of up in the air. The decoy and stun grenades require a 50% chance of going off, so it's really not worth my action points or my EP. I'm probably sticking a long range scope on one of my troopers, but I don't think it's going to be getting that much use in the first place. I could see people using the adrenaline shot or the foregrip on different operatives. Really, those last 2 EP are up to you. The trooper is getting the frag grenade if it's against hordes, or the crack grenade if it's against elite teams, because they're getting that 1 free elite point to use on each attack. And remember, with the frag grenade, they can use that for each of the blast attacks. The other grenade is going on the recon trooper, or the extra trooper if you're deciding to not go for the recon trooper because it is in sort of the classic format. The nice thing with the long range scope on the sniper is that you're always going to be fishing for crits, and so they're probably not going to get to retain a cover save, which is really nice against your no AP sniper attacks. In terms of strategic ploys, all of them are pretty bad. There's a lot of strategic ploys and tactical ploys, but you're probably just going to be using your CP for rerolls most of the game. Elimination pattern is definitely not worth 1 CP. A P1 critical hit roll is going to be way worse than trying to do a reroll on a shot, because it only affects hotshot weapons, and your big damage dealers aren't the hotshot weapons. Elimination pattern specifically excludes the snipe profile, so it would be nice to have a P1 sniper, not what happens here. Safeguard increases your defense. It's only rerolling 1s if you're in cover. It's really not worth the 1 CP. Clearance Sweep gives you 1 free elite point for being within 4 inches of an opponent that has been set up with this marker. It's really just pretty awful. Reposition's fun. It's pretty situational. It's probably a fine use of CP. Again, it can score faction tac up 1, so that's pretty nice. And even if you get initiative, you can use this strategic ploy to get your guy out into a position where he can make a single shot before using the next AP to move back into cover. It's a pretty nice one, actually. The tactical ploys are also pretty weird, though. Cover retreat is nice. It allows you to fall back for 1 less AP. I find that most times when my Kasrkin get charged, they're probably not going to be alive afterward because they only have a little bayonet that's not really going to be making hits for parries, and they only have 7 wounds. But if they do survive getting charged, this is pretty good. Forcadia is awful. Why would you charge someone? I mean, if you really need to, you can. It's an option in your toolkit, but it's not going to guarantee that you can actually make that charge and do the 3 damage with a bayonet. Not really worth your CP. Seize Initiative is pretty fun. For 1 CP, you get to reroll your initiative dice, essentially acting as a chronometer. Sometimes it can be kind of bait for 1 CP to reroll that. Probably not worth it if it's any less than a 50% chance of getting the initiative. But again, it's a tool in your toolkit, and if you know you need that initiative, then you can absolutely fish for it. What's really, really nice, though, for your CP is a neutralized target. Use this tactical ploy after rolling attack dice for a shooting attack made by a friendly Kasrkin operative. If the target of that attack is not ready and either has an engage order or is not in cover, you can re-roll any or all of your attack dice for that shooting attack. And after this, you can also use elite points. So you get a 50% chance of getting 2 hits, and then you can re-roll those, whatever you miss, probably 2, hopefully getting another extra hit, and then you can use your final elite point little dice thing happening here to get that last little dice to be a hit, and oh boy, you've hit all your attacks, and maybe you got a couple crits too. Mathematically, neutralized target is going to get you 4 hits. Of course, this is relying on chance and rolling dice and all of those things, but it's really putting odds in your favor in a beautiful way. You can only use this once per turning point, and it requires the operative to not be in cover or to be in engage. It also has to be not ready. That being said, against an elite team, there's probably going to be someone out on engage order who's already been doing things that you can absolutely just melt with this. Typically, it's better to shoot people that have not been activated yet, but neutralized target makes it really, really nice. If you're going to have like 6 or 7 CP in a game, then you're really going to be looking at neutralized target hopefully 3 times in the game, probably getting 2 repositions off. And that leaves you some extra room there for a seize initiative, and hopefully you're going to be doing some rerolls as well. Command reroll is really beneficial for the Kasrkin kill team because you really need to be fishing to get those shots off. Even if your roll of 1 rerolls into a roll of 3, that's going to net you some savings on your elite points usage. All of this results in you having a very singular and straightforward playstyle. Your whole goal is to delete the enemy before they outscore you. You need to remove enemies from objectives that you need to take, and also take out the enemies that are preparing to shoot those guys that you have on those objectives. Additionally, you're out activating as much as you can with your 10 operatives to ensure that your gunners get free reign on the field. You don't have any group activation 2 guys, so against a team of 6, you're probably going to have all 4 of your gunners, if not 3, that are going to be able to do things while the enemy is unable to activate. To get the most benefit out of this, you need to know the cover system. Setting up one-way shooting is critical so that you do not get overwatched. This is my favorite tool in the entire game. Everyone has all these nice acrylic measuring tools, but this Army Painter laser pointer that I got for like $5, amazing. What it does to simulate it on my body, if you can see that, it makes a little line laser. This allows you to visualize on the field what the cover lines look like. You can pick a point on the base of your operative, point the laser, and see where the cover lines go. You don't have to argue with your opponent. You don't have to be like, I'm going to make a one-way shot, and trust me, you can't shoot back. You can just show yourself and the opponent, like, hey, this is how this works. This team is very difficult to play well. I think they're very accessible. With their only mechanic being consistency, it's really beginner friendly because you don't have to worry about having these big dice swings. Of course it can happen, you can roll all 1s and elite points can't even save you then, but that's just statistically much more rare than just rolling 4-ups and hoping you get 50%. That being said, again, this team is very, very squishy. One wrong misstep, one wrong positioning, one failed attempt at making a one-way shot where you can actually be shot, those sort of things will come and bite you. 10 operatives is more than 6, but if you only have 7 wounds and a 4-up save, you're probably not going to be surviving long at all. How this works out throughout the turning points is you're hopefully going to be doing a big alpha strike at the beginning if you can. You don't want the enemies to be getting up close to you. Melee is your biggest threat. This might mean scaring your opponent with your positioning with your melta-gun. They'll understand that the melta-gun has that 6-inch range, which is, with 6 inches of movement, that's about a 12-inch kill range. Positioning that on a separate side of the field as your plasma gun is going to make the enemies much less able to get up close to you and confidently do some melee. This team just can't deal with hordes. The team doesn't have the damage output spread across their operatives. It's all locked down to 4 guys, and they can't shoot twice. Your ideal situation against hordes is going to be waiting for the opponent to hopefully trickle up some guys and be able to keep shooting at them without being shot. Part of this big alpha strike at the beginning is going to rely on your recon trooper, who is going to allow you to do 2 scouting options. With that 3-inch dash at the beginning, Hopefully it will get your sniper up onto a vantage point. If it doesn't, then it can get your sniper at least closer to one, where you have hopefully fortified and put down a barricade onto that vantage point. Someday they're probably going to patch this out. It is February 22nd as of the filming date, and I'm crossing my fingers that maybe this team will get a buff. As for the buffs I would hope that they could get, I think the wounds are a big one here. Having 8 wounds would really help them not just take an immediate one shot from most attacks. A crit and a hit with a bolter is just 7 damage and will instantly shred a Kasrkin, and maybe some minor tweaks to their strategic ploys. That being said, they are very fun, and their really low cognitive load makes it a lot more fun to be able to play them in a bit more of a casual setting, rather than playing intercessors, which are as strong as they are and as easy as they are to play. I think the Kasrkin are a sort of nice option that gives you more operatives compared to the intercessors. They're weaker, but they can be a bit more casual in that sense. When I'm not looking to sweat hard with Vet Guard, Kasrkin's the team I look to. Plus, I just like them. They're just such fun little guys. Note that this is just one person's interpretation of this team. It is by no means gospel. I'm a relatively competitive player who has some tournament experience and has won one, but it's by no means the best Kasrkin player in the world telling you how to play this team. Anyways, that's all I got for today. Thanks everyone for watching. It was great to see all the positive feedback from the last video. Everyone was really excited to watch the Vet Guard guide, and I'm really grateful for that, so thank you everyone. I have a coffee link below if you want to buy me a coffee for making these videos. I do this for fun as a hobby. I know they don't come out quickly, but this is just a fun little side project for me. I will be at Adepticon in March. I'll be bringing my Vet Guard there, so if you see me there, come say hi. I'd be happy to talk to you. Currently, these are the only 2 teams I own, so it might be a bit till the next sort of team overview video. However, if you have other suggestions for videos, please let me know below. And you can find me on Instagram at VentrueMinis. You can see all of my lovely little painted guys. Have a great day.